Hello. Hello and welcome to the Hafey Digital Podcast pre-show, as I have grown accustomed to calling it. This is the part of the show that you won't hear in the audio portion, by the way. And also, by the way, if you hear any snoring in the background, it's because I have my dog here, which you can't see from this angle. But, oh wait, there you go. There's the big lug. My wife was up late last night watching a Korean concert that she had got virtual tickets for, so she's sleeping. So the big boy is in with me. So occasionally you may hear what sounds like a giant bellowing, and it's really just him snoring in his sleep. Anyway, so this is the part of the show where I just kind of go through and make sure that all systems are go. Everything is up and running. So I'm going to do that now. And you're going to hang out with me. And then if we have any, does anybody watching along, feel free to chime in, ask a question, say hello. And I'm just going to take a little bit of time to sit here and get kind of situated. You know what I mean? Make sure everything's working. All right. So looks like we're up and running on the Twitters. Let's check the Facebooks. Facebooks up and running. Fantastic. All right. Got some notifications there. Might as well take a look. All right. Very good. Twitch just came online. Fantastic. All right. Let's see. No drop frames, which is good. Had a good speed test before the show. Let's see. Mic looks good. Desktop audio. Okay, I want to do that as well. Got this up. Got camera 2 up. Got camera 3 up and running back here. Excuse me. I think that's everything, right? I say this every time. Hey, what's up, Robert? I say this every time, but I need a checklist. I need to start a checklist. It's okay. Anywho. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. This is episode 69. Fantastic. Today, by the way, drinking another caffeinated bubbly mixed with a little bit of sparkling homemade cranberry soda juice. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's refreshing. So that's what we're working with today. And I think we're ready to just go ahead and jump into this. So without further ado, I'm going to start my recording on the Rodecaster there. Make sure I'm getting that audio. And here we go. Hello and welcome to episode number 69 of the Hafey Digital Podcast, a show for creators, makers, and doers, where my goal is to help you make to the max. My name is Ryan. And in this episode, we're doing Studio Scrutiny Part 2, and I also have some interesting and fun studio upgrades to tell you about. Let's do it. Hello. Welcome to the show. Thank you for being here. If you are new to the Hafey Digital Podcast, this is my playground, and I've talked in previous episodes that I'm looking towards doing a rebrand soon. I'm thinking I'll probably keep the name of the podcast, Hafey Digital Podcast, but I may change it. And I actually just had this thought this morning. It's like I consider this area here my playground. So, content creators playground. I got to come up with something more creative. If you have any name suggestions, feel free to leave me a comment. But I feel like I may want to change the title just to make it, if you see Hafey Digital, that could mean a number of different things. It doesn't really tell you much about what I do here. So I like the thought of referring to this as a playground because that's kind of what it is. So maybe we go with that. But if you're new here, yes, I do talk about video creation, video editing, filming, camera gear, podcasting, live streaming, photography. Occasionally I'll dive into some FPV stuff every now and then. All sorts of stuff in the realm of content creation. So if that's what you're into, you may enjoy it here. So feel free to hit that subscribe button wherever you happen to be watching or listening, or follow me on social media at Ryan Hafey on Instagram and Twitter, and swing by and ask me any questions that you may have. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to my wife, Charlene. She is currently in bed because she was up late last night watching a virtual Korean concert. So she's sleeping in today. But actually, tomorrow is her birthday, and we did a little bit of celebrating and just kind of hanging out this weekend. There goes Pudge. We don't. So there's no one else in the house right now. By the way, that's my pug. There's no one else in the house right now to keep an eye on the dogs. So, as you saw in the pre-show. I've got the big boy in here with me. That's Tum Tum, my Cane Corso. And hopefully he doesn't make too much noise, but you just may hear some grunts from him every now and then because he's sleeping and he snores occasionally. Anyway, yeah, wife's birthday is tomorrow, and happy birthday to her. Doesn't matter what her age is. She looks like she's still 20 years old, so it's pretty cool. Finally, also wanted to mention I have another YouTube short that I posted, guess that would have been Friday, right? Yeah, Friday. And this one is about camera buying considerations for going live on your live stream. Instead of live streaming with some kind of potato quality webcam, I give you some tips for features to look for in a camera when upgrading for your live stream purposes, whatever those may be. Obviously, it's a YouTube short, which means it's under 60 seconds, and there's only so much information you can put in a 60-second video, at least especially when it comes to a buyer's guide. But the video does have a description in which I include additional camera buying considerations other than the major ones that I mentioned in the video, as well as some links to a few different gear recommendations that I have. I'm a little biased towards Sony, so you may find some Sony links in there, but there you go. Okay. So the first thing I want to talk about today, the first major thing I want to talk about is something that has brought me a lot of joy over the past few days. So you may remember it was, a few podcast episodes ago, I mentioned that I now have the ability, I mounted a light over here. I don't think this shows it. No, it doesn't. Not even close. But the light that I'm referring to is directly to my side here. And I set it up using, because I wanted to be able to set up a light that I didn't have to continually walk over to, turn on and off. And this particular light it does take battery, but obviously battery runs out. So I have it plugged in and just have the wire kind of running down the wall into a smart power outlet. And the smart power outlet basically allows me to turn it off with either an app on my phone or by tying it into my Google Home here. So I can say, hey, Google, turn off the fill light. I hope I changed the name right. There we go. I called it fill switch. Hey, Google, turn on the fill switch. Thank you. Okay, so that was cool, and I liked the convenience of that. There goes Tum Tum making his snorts. I liked the convenience of that, and I haven't really applied it to this area here, with the exception of this light back here, which has a smart bulb screwed into it, and that is connected to the Google Home as well. So if I wanted to, I could turn off that light by voice. But everything else here, as far as cameras, my key light, it was all previously just plugged into a normal outlet. I do have these power outlets that have buttons on them where I can manually turn certain things on and off. So I have one that's kind of behind this monitor here. And it had two buttons on it. One was for my cameras. Yeah, it would turn all of my cameras on. It would turn this camera on, and then I had a second one over here with another button that would turn this camera and that camera on. And then, but I would have to get up to do it. Same thing with this key light. I had a button to turn the key light on and off. And it really wasn't a big deal, but for me, as I like to say, laziness breeds creativity. And I got annoyed with having to get up to turn off certain things and leave other things on. I just wanted a better way to automate everything. So I picked up a couple more of those power outlets like I have for this light over here and have incorporated them into my workstation here. Now, obviously, I can't show you too much of what the setup does because if I do, everything's going to turn off and my camera and the live stream's probably going to get screwed. So I'm going to show you a little video, and then I'll do a couple of examples that I can show you. So check it out. All right, this makes me happy. Check this out. Hey, Google, turn on the studio.
All right, turning on 9 things.
Turns on that light, those lights, that light, that monitor, that camera, that camera, that switcher board. I can turn everything on and off independently, or I can say, hey, Google, turn on the fan.
Sure, turning on fan.
So there you go. That makes me more happy than you can imagine. For whatever reason, it's not really a big deal. Most people might just laugh at that, but I think that's freaking awesome. So the way it works is, I've got a power strip here, I've got a power strip back here, and then I've got one over in the corner. Each power strip, I probably should have pulled up the Amazon link, but it's got 3 regular just wall outlets on it, and then 3 USB outlets. You can turn the wall, I don't know what you would even call them, but like the wall outlets, you could turn them off, each one of them independently on each different power strip, and then the USB plugs, ports, whatever you call them, those USB ports, all 3 of them are on kind of like a single switch. So whatever, you can't do the USB ports individually, but for what I have set up, it's actually okay. So the way that it works is basically everything, and I have a link to these power strips in the description, and they're awesome. They're not that expensive. I think each one is like $17, at least currently. And then setting them up, if you have a Google Home or an Alexa, setting it up is super easy. You can rename the different things that you have plugged into them. So everything can be, so if I wanted to say, hey, Google, turn off the key light. Hey, Google, turn on the key light. So it works like that. I can say, hey, Google, turn off accent lights and background light. Okay, it missed the background light, but hey, Google, turn on the accent lights. I even have it set up to where, as you saw in the video, hey, Google, turn on the fan. I said, hey, Google, turn on the fan. Doesn't listen all the time. Yo, Google. Hey, Google, turn on the fan. When he hears me, it works great. Hey, Google, turn off the fan. Okay. But so you get the idea. And then when I'm done with everything, all I have to say is, turn off the studio, and everything shuts off. So that's awesome, because when I'm done, I don't have to, there's been so many times when I've left like these cameras on and charging, and then I come back and realize they've just been charging for, overnight, which is probably not a good idea. So to have the ability to just at the end of everything, just say, hey, turn everything off. Awesome. If I need a lot of light for something I'm working on, just turning on that light. Awesome. If, I don't know, you get the idea. You could do just a number of different combinations of things, and I love it. So that is my studio upgrade. Again, link to the power strip is in the description below, and check it out if it fits your needs. All right, moving on. Let's talk about some podcast studios today. Studio Scrutiny Part 2. Last week, I went over 4 different podcast studios. The ones that I went over last week were A Conversation With, that's Philip DeFranco's podcast studio. Congratulations Podcast with Chris D'Elia, Maddie and Pete, the Maddie and Pete Show, and the Joe Rogan Experience. And I had written down 8, but I took longer to go through those first 4. So we saved the other 4 for today, and I'm going to go ahead and get those pulled up. And let's start talking about them. I'm going to go here. Perfect. Actually, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to go here. Boom. All right. For starters, you know what? We're going to save this one for last. For starters, I want to go to 2 Bears, 1 Cave. This is a comedy podcast with Tom Segura and Bert Kreischer. And let's just scrub. I'm going to mute that here. Let's scrub through and just kind of see what we got. So here's Bert's angle there. And by the way, I'm basing these criteria, I'm basing these ratings off of 4 criteria: lighting, set design, camera angles, and color grade. I'm not going to be assessing audio quality or the quality of the content. We're just basically just looking at pure aesthetics here. So just keep that in mind. So we're looking at 2 Bears, 1 Cave. One thing that I wanted to start doing too is checking quality options. So in this case, we can go up to 1080p, which is good, and that'll come in handy later, and you'll see why. But looking at this angle, I mean, as far as podcast studios go, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing really super off-putting. I like how they keep kind of part of the logo in the background. Lighting is flat and kind of boring. Nothing really going on there. I do like kind of the wood in the background and the textured wallpaper. Bert, you might want to tone it down with your choice of libations on the table there. Maybe they're there for a reason. I haven't listened to this episode. But that's a lot of stuff that's kind of distracting on the table. Also, why the hell are you drinking 5 sodas or 3 sodas? And anyway, I'm not one to judge. I am one to judge, but I'm not gonna judge anymore here. But yeah, I mean, this is fine. Everything is well lit. It's not meaning well lit as in everything is nice and illuminated and good exposure. The lighting itself, though, not that interesting, not that contrasty, just very kind of general lighting. Nothing off-putting, but nothing super stellar either. Let's go find, here's the wide shot. And wide shot looks good. I like the logo in the background, although it is cut off at the top. It would be nice to reframe a little bit so you get the entirety of the podcast logo in the shot there. Looks like some of this accent lighting in the background is clipping a little bit. It's a little bit hot, so I would either turn that off or turn it way down so that it's not blown out in the background. Framing for the wide shot looks good. Let's see, what else can we say about it? I like the symmetry of the studio, although again, framing, this is just from an OCD perspective that bothers me. And that is, here, let's see if we can do this. There we go. That is that you have less of the wood panels on that side than you do on the right side. So yeah, I think you could bump up in some points if you had less clutter on the table, because you got phones here, you got headphones and beer and soda and all sorts of stuff that's a little bit distracting. You've got some blown out highlighted accent lights in the background, and framing is a little off. Lighting could be a little bit more interesting, or just a little better and a little more appealing to look at. But as far as, but I like the setup in general. Color grade, something we haven't mentioned. Again, it's fine. It's nothing stellar. And again, when you're watching a comedy podcast, you're not there for aesthetics as much. So you kind of have to factor that in, although the whole point of this is to assess the aesthetic appeal of these podcasts. So anyway, let's jump right to the rating. Oh, you know what? Hold on. We didn't look at Tom's. So we have Bert. There's Bert's angle. Oh, no, it's going to make me watch an ad. Come on. You're not even going to... Okay, now we can skip the ads. There we go. So there is Tom there from his angle, and then let's see. So both angles essentially look exactly the same, and I'm not mad at that. I like the symmetry with both angles. So if I had to give this one a rating, I'm going to go with... This is a weird one because everything is fine, but there are a lot of things that could be done in multiple different areas to really beef it up and make it look even cooler. I'm going to go, in honor of episode 69, Giggity Giggity, I'm going to go with a 6.9 on this one. And I need to start writing these down. 6.9 out of 10. That is the rating for the 2 Bears, 1 Cave podcast. Fantastic. Let's move on to the next one. We're going to go to the Adam Carolla Show. This was like the first podcast. No, and I lied because I've been listening to and making podcasts since like 2009. Or at least I made a podcast in 2009 and then took a bunch of years off, and now I'm back doing this podcast. Anyway, the Adam Carolla Show I used to listen to every day, all the time. It's my favorite podcast. I just kind of grew out of it after a while, but I'll check in on it every now and then. But what I've noticed is that there hasn't been a whole lot of change in quality with the podcast, the Adam Carolla podcast, for quite a while now. And let's go back to this angle here. So one of the things I noticed a little bit earlier, and obviously, Adam Carolla Show, I believe they still live stream it. And I had to dig into the archives as well, by the way, for this podcast, because they've been doing everything via Zoom, and I wanted to be able to assess the studio. So this is from a year ago, before the pandemic. And this is kind of the wide shot. I don't mind this wide shot. I assume that this empty space over here is for the guests whenever they come in. It would be cool if you could, when there is no guest, maybe crop in a little bit so you can frame everyone else a little bit more evenly inside the frame, if that makes sense. I need to I'm not even showing you what I'm talking about. There we go. So yeah, that's one thing. I would like some better framing when there's no guest. It's also I feel like it's a little bit tight. Like if you're going to do a wide shot, give a little bit of margin along the outsides. I also think that, and I understand why they do the Podcast One logo, because they have an agreement with them. It's super big, super distracting. I would love to see it smaller, maybe up in the corner. Also, there's two giant Adam Carolla Show logos. Nothing wrong with that, but maybe a little redundant and overkill, because both of them are both big and they're both very easily legible. Lighting wise, again, nothing stellar about the lighting. Very even lighting. Everything is pretty well exposed. The dark stuff in the back does give off kind of like I'm talking about like the curtains, and it's a very high contrast studio. I don't know. I'm a little put off by some of all the dark. Feels like it's covering things up. It feels like something's almost being hidden in a way. Maybe they want to hide their desks, and that's fine. Pudge. Anyway. But yeah, it is what it is. But here's what I noticed. If you go into settings, quality, the highest quality option is 720p, which means that that's what they're streaming the podcast at, which, let's get with the times. Like, I'm streaming in 1080 right now. I don't, this is obviously a big operation. You've got a full radio style studio setup going on. Let's upgrade, and let's start streaming at a higher resolution, because this is already set to the highest quality resolution and it still looks blurry. But let's scrub through and let's find another angle. One thing to note here, take a look at Adam's face. Skin tones look decent. And then if we scrub through and we go to here, now Adam's face. Did you need something, sir? Adam's face it looks very red, so there's not a lot of consistency between the colors of the cameras. You know what? Let's take a little break. Come here, Toms. Come here. Come here. Come here. What's wrong? Come. Come here. Say hi to everyone. Come here. Oh, you don't want to? What's wrong, sir? Come here. You don't want to come here? He's upset because he hears his brothers outside making noise, and he wants to be out there with them. Unfortunately, he is he's still only a little over a year old, and he would tear up the carpet. Or not the carpet. He would chew on things, potentially. I mean, he's pretty good. You know what? You better behave. If I come back, if I finish this podcast and he tears up my whole house, blaming it all on you. It's all your. It's really not. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. That was mean of me. Anyway, back to this. So, yeah, there's not a lot of color consistency between the shots here. So deducting some points for that, unfortunately. Let's look at another angle. He looks a little bit more red as well. And these single or these solo angles are very tight. Like I know you want to. I don't know. It feels a little too close. I would like to not be quite as, I don't know, the framing I'd play with a little bit. All right, so here we go. Here's a wide shot with Kyle in the corner. Again, quality just not good, even at the full resolution. And I know I'm watching this on a 4K screen, and if I were to bring it down, it would look a little bit better. But even here, it looks blurry. And I don't know, maybe their internet connections out there in California aren't that great. It also, again, margins on the outside. It really puts the guest right up in the corner, and I would prefer for a little bit wider angle there. Let's look for, this is the guest angle. Again, very tight angle. Not a huge fan of it. I mean, for a show that's been around as long as the Adam Carolla Show has been around, I would hope that they would have worked on. They clearly put some thought and effort into the studio and to make it look like kind of an actual like radio broadcast studio. But I wish they would have put a little bit more into just the quality of the picture and framing and things like that. So, Mr. Carolla, if I'm going to rate your podcast studio, I'm going to give it, because you got to give points for the radio studio look, but you got to deduct points for the rest. So I'm going to go with, I'm going to go with a 5.9. I know that seems a little bit harsh, but there's just a lot of things that I'm looking at that just bother me. The excessive black, the giant distracting logos, the framing, the video quality, the difference in colors between the cameras. I think there's a lot that could be tweaked to really make this look better. So, Adam Carolla, 5.9 out of 10. Let's move on to Mind Pump Media. This is one of my favorite just kind of fitness and well-being podcasts. Let's scrub through a little bit here. All right. Lighting so far, and let's make sure we are on the highest quality setting. Okay, there we go. Lighting looks like we're a little bit hot. We got some, we may have some cameras that don't have the best dynamic range, or we may just be a little bit hot with the lights or a little bit overexposed, which is weird because, there's definitely some hot spots here on their head. But then there are parts that look, like they're maybe a little underexposed. I do kind of like the sound panels in the background. That's kind of just a classic studio background. This bothers me a little bit that it's kind of out of place here. Framing wise, I like the framing. I think it gives them, this was the kind of framing that I would hope for out of the Adam Carolla studio, where it's a little bit farther back, waist up, I think is good. Gives you the opportunity to see what they're doing with their hands, any body language, that type of stuff. If you're too super tight, you can see what's going on with the face, but you can't read the body language. So I like that. Oh no, I gotta watch another ad. Here we go. Let's skip through that. Okay, we're gonna go back here. I like this here. The guitar, not super relevant to what Mind Pump is, although I will say that, they do a lot of just kind of talking about random things, so it's not that out of place. I like the consistent sound panel background, again, like I mentioned. The little Italian chef in the corner behind Sal, that's funny because he's Italian. Let's see, is there a wide shot? I don't think there is, which is interesting. So they obviously, what's this? No, I lied. Yeah, you know what I would like to see is a wide shot, and we don't see that here. You'd like to, it seems like it sort of disconnects things. It makes it seem like the guys aren't in the same room even. There's no overlap between anything. So I would love to see a wide shot of all three of the guys wherever possible. So let's back up. Lighting. Again, lighting needs a touch up. Need to work on either exposure settings or dialing in the light brightness, or maybe get different types of lights. Maybe these are more like light panels versus kind of the soft diffused key light like I have up there. I would work on, set design I'm fine with. As long as there's no weird discrepancies in the background as far as, things that'll make your OCD kick in. I'm fine with the background. It's not super distracting because it's like a consistent pattern. It's a little bit busy, but it's not that distracting. And also the black background makes the skin tones just kind of pop off it a little bit. Camera angles, again, I like the framing of the individual shots, but I wish that there was more. I wish there was a wide shot so we could see kind of what the whole room looks like. Get a handle on that. And then color grade wise, everything looks a little bit red to me. And again, exposure levels need to be tweaked, highlights and things like that. But, otherwise it's not bad. So Mind Pump, I'm going to give you a rating of, let's see, if Two Bears was One Cave was 6.9 out of 10. I'll go with a 7.2. I think it's good. I think it's fine. There's just a few small things that I think could be tweaked, and it would be good. So 7.2 for Mind Pump podcast. Last but not least, and that's a good frame to start on, we're gonna go with Flagrant 2, the Andrew Shultz podcast with Akaash Singh. I just recently. I've known about Andrew Shultz for a while, but I've just recently come across this, the video version of this podcast. And I like Andrew. I think he's really funny. So let's look around at some of the different angles here. All right, for starters, here's a wide shot, or at least a shot of Andrew and Akaash. And I like the framing. I love the colors. I think it fits what they're trying to do. It's very colorful and very busy, but just kind of, the name is Flagrant. So you kind of think of that when you think of that kind of name. What I noticed is that there's a lot more light in the center on the logo in the background. The logo is a little bit hard to read on that busy background and with that thin cursive. But also I noticed that it's brighter there than Andrew and Akaash are. So I would prefer to either illuminate them a little bit more or bring this down a little bit, because it draws the attention more to the center and less to them, in my opinion. I like kind of the trinkets and things like that on the table. Again, it seems in some cases that could be overkill. And like when I did Philip DeFranco's review yesterday or last week, I noted that there's a lot of stuff in the background and a lot of trinkets, which is fine, except for it can be a little distracting because it doesn't really have anything to do with the show itself. I feel like in this case, with all this stuff there, I've seen clips where they're holding up like these little, these prop guns and things like that. So it fits, and it kind of fits with the tone of the show. Let's scrub through a little bit. So yeah, lighting wise, just a little bit more light on these guys. Maybe some dedicated lights, create a little contrast. Let's go to a solo angle. Here we go. Got the booze in the background, fitting for a comedy show. Lighting here is a little bit better. You're not distracted by this super bright logo on the side there. Again, going kind of waist up in this case. I like that for framing. Same kind of angle for Shultz here. Nice and colorful. Got no problems with this. You can see though, if you look at his face, you see that hard line there, which means that they're using some harsh lighting. And so it looks like they may be using some kind of studio lights, because you can also see it on his wrist there. Maybe some hard lighting shutting down, or some, just some ceiling lights. And I think they could definitely benefit by softening some of that lighting up a little bit. Let's go. Let's see. Move forward a little bit. I know there was one more. There we go. Where is it? They had a wide shot with the entire studio. And this is really cool. Again, quality of this particular frame is not that great. Little too contrasty, probably a little actually quite a bit oversaturated. You can just see by the red on his shirt. But you get just a feel for what they're working with, and you get a feel for the studio and the environment that they're operating in, and I always like that. So I think this angle is cool. You can see the cameras there, you can see the producers in the background, and they're close enough to the guys to where they can be in frame and interact. And let's see if we can see what else they're working with. They've got some lights in the background, which doesn't appear that those are actually in operation for the show, just more for props. But it looks like they're using some good cameras, so, that's good. Like to see that. I'm not mad at that. So we're using a 4-camera setup. I like the camera angles. No issues with the camera angles. Color grade, yeah, just play with the contrast and the colors a little bit. Lighting, a little bit better lighting on the subjects, and kind of fix that lighting in the host angle, so it's a little bit more focus on the hosts and less on what's going on in the background. But otherwise, I think this is a really fun setup. Looks like they put a lot of effort and time into it. So I'm going to give this one, I'm going to go 8.1. That feels right to me. Again, with all of these, it's like, just certain little small tweaks and things like that could really beef it up. But I'm not mad at it. I like it. And wow, 36 minutes in. Okay, cool. This is it's interesting. These Studio Scrutiny episodes, they take a lot longer than I originally anticipated, but that's okay. I like being able to sit down and analyze these. But there we go. So we got Two Bears, One Cave with a rating of 6.9 out of 10. Adam Carolla Show, 5.9 out of 10. Sorry, Adam. Mind Pump, 7.2 out of 10. And Andrew Shultz, Flagrant 2, coming in on top for today with a rating of 8.1 out of 10. I would love it if anyone out there watching, if you have a studio of your own or a podcast that you like to watch and you would like me to rate and critique their podcast studio, leave me a comment, send me a message, whatever. I'll take a look, and maybe we'll include it in a future episode of Studio Scrutiny. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and call this one done. I do appreciate you for watching. Be sure to hit that subscribe button wherever you happen to be watching or listening. If you found some value, missed the button there the first time. If you found some value out of this episode, and follow me on social media at Ryan Hafey on Instagram and Twitter. And let's have a conversation when this is all said and done. But until next time, keep on creating, making, and doing. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.